2008 Port Condition 100 Russell.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to the Hyde Park Town Board meeting, Monday, May 13th. It's at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I'd like to see some.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept the April 8th and 12th and 22nd minutes?
April 11th?
It's the 11th.
April 8th and 11th
And,
and 22nd.
okay. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will you read roll call vote on that?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Okay, do any board members have any conflict of interest regarding any of the items listed on tonight's meeting agenda?
No. No.
No.
Thank you very much. I'd like to have a moment of silence in memory of Officer Donald Wacker. Officer Donald Wacker worked for the town of Hyde Park as a part-time police officer and a full-time police officer for over 18 years. Officer McDonald Wacker passed away Monday, April 22nd. He was 86 years old. Thank you. Liz? Yeah, Liz.
I'm going to do a certificate for our very own Hyde Park School District, Linda Lawler. Congratulations to Linda Lawler for being awarded the School Bus Driver of the Year from the Dutchess County Traffic and Safety Board. Linda is one of our own Hyde Park Central School District's bus drivers, and her route includes students that attend Netherwood Elementary, Haviland Middle, and FDR High Schools. Linda has been with Hyde Park for 10 years and driving for almost 20. She attributes her success to treating every day like it's her first and trying to learn something new every day. She loves the students and enjoys watching them grow before her eyes. Congratulations, Linda. Come on up.
You want to take a picture? Sure, yeah. Okay.
Does she get a raise?
Should I go up too? Up Sammy?
Yeah, sure, come on up.
But everybody's so somber, nobody's smiling. Why don't you smile?
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
When she's done driving, she'll be a police officer. Okay, we'd like to have a little workshop. I'd like to have Howie Fisher, our highway superintendent, to discuss scheduled paving and repairs of town roads projected for up to 2025.
How y'all doing?
Good, Howard.
I'm Howard Fisher. I'm the highway superintendent. I know you all know me, but this is for the people that are watching. I'm highway superintendent for I'm in my 7th year now. 37 I'm in for total time I've been at the highway. So, just wanted to start out before we get into a few numbers here. I wanted to thank this town board, previous town board. I've had a nice run these 7 years. We've changed a lot with the paving. You know, we used to do 1.5 miles a year. Now we're up to 3. Some years we get a little bit above 3. It was a 65-year turnaround, which roads don't last 65 years. Unfortunately, some roads that have been paved haven't held up either. So we're on that time now where we got to start going back and fixing some. So we did get it down to about 30 years now, from 65 to 30. It would be great if we got it down to 20, but I'm very happy with the 30 years, to be honest with you. In my time here, we should have a quarter of the town paved. I have one more year left after this year, so every year I get money from the state. It comes in a few different ways. It comes in CHIPS money. It comes in winter recovery, which is not a guarantee. If the winter's not bad, sometimes they don't give it to us. Then you have Pave New York. These are not guaranteed. The only thing that's guaranteed is the CHIPS money itself, which, when you break it down, it's not a lot of money what roads cost now. So this year I got $444,751.66. That's what I got, which is not even enough to pave one long road. To do Cardinal Road alone, which we're going to do this year, that is $565,000, and that's 2.78 miles long. So the town has been really great. I can't thank Jim and Danielle enough, and you guys, because you do approve it also. The town's thrown in another $380,000. And then I'll take some of the money out of my drainage, and also I'll have Cook come in, who won the bid for cleaning pipes and basins. So between, when it's all said and done, it'll be closer to about $830,000. The numbers have just gone through the roof. I used to do about the same amount for $505,000. So with the oil prices up the way they are, everything just keeps going up more and more. So this year, we're going to do Cardinal Road, a road that's been forgotten for a long time, Kyle Court that attaches to it, and Howard Boulevard. And Howard Boulevard's a small dead end, but it was done with a cold mix, and it's just peeling up every winter. So that's our plans for this year. And like I said, at that cost, you know, it's just getting more and more. So before I go back in a little bit on some of the roads that need to be repaired, I did want to update a few people. There's a lady that calls me from Peach Road every year. God bless her. She's the nicest lady in the world. Peach Road is listed as our worst road. But because Bosse's needs water, they need to run a water line from the Poughkeepsie side of Peach Road to Bosse's, which would go right down our road. So every year she calls me and says, is this the year? And I'd love to say yes to her, but I have to, wait until they run this line down. I did talk to Jonathan Churins, who is one of the bigwigs for the county water, and he told me it is on to be done. So when that does get done, we will pave that road. My goals are now to go back. We had 5 roads that were done with a bond for the town. That was East Dorsey, West Dorsey, Roosevelt Road, Mills Cross Road, and Reservoir Road. I still believe, we're not 100% sure, that we're still paying on that bond. Because the bonds were consolidated, it's hard to say what is and what isn't anymore. But unfortunately, all 5 roads are worse now than they were before they were paved the first time. So next year, we're going to start tackling those roads. We'll probably go up to Reservoir, work our way across, and hopefully have enough money to come in from Route 9 and get to Nicholas Lane or Reservoir. And then I'm hoping that that'll have the next guy that comes in after me, or a woman, to finish that road. Then they'll have to go back to Roosevelt Road, East and West Dorsey, because the roads are just horrendous. But I'm doing everything I can. I mean, we've paved 63 roads. We've done 23 miles. We've done a pretty good job. I mean, my guys are out there working all the time. That's, not much more I can say about that. We are going to go up to Mills Cross this year. We want to add 2 basins and try and catch the water coming out of a bank and get it underground. And then we're going to scuff up that poor section where the water's been coming out every winter and put a coat on it. It's just a temporary relief. It's not paving by any means. It's just to give the people relief coming out, trying to get to 9. So that's what I have for now. Anybody have any questions?
I know Mr. Exelberg is here. While you're here, Howie, I want you to
I've talked to him. He's
stay
been in
here.
my
but
office.
He can come up and blow off some steam if he wants, but nevertheless, most of these roads that are on the track to be paved prior years, a lot of it wasn't done. Of course, like on Mills Cross, where that one washboard section's real bad.
Yes.
You got to put drainage in. And a lot of this money that this 840,000 that's allocated for these roads this year, that is only pavement only. That is no drainage, no pipe, no catch basin, no labor.
I take the pipe out of my own drainage money. We're putting some pipe in at Cardinal Road now. We have a couple more to do. That's all coming out of my drainage. That's why I said that number really doesn't reflect the total amount. But in the meantime, I'm going to go up, and of course, because we need to add those basins, it's all rock there. Then we had to pay for a hammer to come in, which is not cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything is money.
Yeah.
And I can't, and I promised the previous town board before, and I wanted to keep it with this board. When people call me, I don't say, call the town hall, I need more money, because we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
I spend every dime I get, and I beg for everything I get. I just said to Jim the other day, I said, Jim, you've never told me no. I said, should I be asking for more? And he kind of laughed at me, because, I've pushed the envelope this year. This is a lot of money. But, Cardinal Road needs it. I had Big Meadow that I prepped for all the drainage on that just needs to be paved, but I can't go down to Big Meadow when these roads are falling apart quicker now.
Yeah.
So we know what we got to do. It's just, I'm finishing up. I did South Cross Road because it's a school. I did Haviland Road because it's a school. You got new drivers on South Cross Road, which that road was paved in 1988. That was my second year here when we paved that with a driveway paver. And it did hold up a long time, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are roads, like I said, it stinks that we have to go back and spend money twice on a road when other people haven't had their roads done in over 40 years. But I get it. I'd be upset if I lived on those roads too. So,
Well, that and taken also in consideration, I think this board is, now that you're saying Cardinal Road and stuff, like we've talked about, and we're out now where the heavy traffic is on Cardinal Road, we know where the junkyard is, and a couple of the other areas where there's heavy traffic. Howie and myself and the supervisor has been out, and we're talking to them people that own the parcels that butt up against the road, and basically say, hey, we're gonna pave the road, and this is what we expect for you. And most of these, like where the scrapyard is, they're gonna pave their driveway back,
They
so
are
that
gonna
they're not
pave-
breaking the edges, they're not destroying the road, so,
they are going to come in the opposite way with their trucks. Once we get across the road, their larger trucks that haul the scrap out will not be allowed on the road. They've already been told that.
Yeah.
We asked for 3 or 4 days
yeah,
of nothing.
Yeah.
We'll let the smaller trucks in when we can.
yeah,
And they're working with us. They're going to go the opposite way when we're on one side. So we've done that part of it. But again, I had somebody just recently call me up and told me I had to step up my game. And I said, listen, I live with a phone in my hand. For 37 years, I don't know what vacation is in the wintertime. My guys work their butts off.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys do a good job.
they're out paving in the heat, a lot of the townspeople recognize it. They'll bring them out coolers of water with some snacks. But they work hard. They don't deserve to get beat up by people going by because they're not happy about their road. We get a bunch of stuff, and like I said, we spend every dime we got,
Yeah. And while we're here on that conversation about spending every dime, we appreciate what you do. I know that I see some emails go back and forth we had a mild winter and you had some surplus of salt, and you made a deal with the county so that they can store the 700 tons
Yep.
of salt, so that, of course, every year the price goes up by, so, you know, storing that salt this year
Yeah.
saves us a considerable amount next year, and we appreciate everything you do. You
And then
guys do a good
I
job.
did want to thank the town board too, because not only are we, the town, putting in the 380,000 more on top of the CHIPS money, you know, we have 2 new plow trucks that will be coming in this year. That's $500,000 right there. You know, 2 plow trucks are not cheap. We just got a utility truck for the guys to work. You know, it's not only this town board and the town board before, the highway was kind of forgotten for a long time, and we bought a lot of equipment over the last 7 years that helps us get through, especially the chipper. You know, when trees come down now, their response is quick. It's a newer chipper, it does the work without the guys killing themselves. So, you know, again, thank you all, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing what we got, Harry, though.
Doc, do you want to come up and report on your road while you're here?
Sit?
Sure.
Okay.
If you just state your name and your address for record, please.
Bob Exelbert, 250 Mills Cross Road, Statsburg. So, I'm not here actually to let off steam. First, I want to thank you all for everything that you do, and definitely the highway superintendent does a great job, all righty? And my concern is obviously the road that I'm living on, Mills Cross Road, because it's terrible, all righty? And I heard what the supervisor, the town superintendent was saying. My concern is this. It seems that this is like an endemic problem in Hyde Park, all righty? I've been in Hyde Park for about 42 years, all righty? So I've been here for a while, and I was told that if I lived here for 30, I could call myself a Hyde Parker. So I'm gonna call myself a Hyde Parker, all righty? But the roads have never been the way they should be. And I don't blame you guys and gals, and I don't blame the previous. I don't blame the previous. But somewhere there is a definite problem with finding money to keep our roads the way they should be. You know, I ride a motorcycle, I ride a bicycle. I'm all over Dutchess County. And the Hyde Park roads are the worst roads. Not every road, but a good portion of them. You can go into Clinton on the dirt roads, and they're smooth. They're wonderful, all right? They are working on my road, Mills Cross Road. I'd say you send a crew there every 2 weeks. There's somebody doing something, which I appreciate. But, you know, I'd like to know how much money is being spent a year fixing potholes, both manpower and the patch. You know, it's like it never ends. You know, and you know, I feel like, okay, they threw us a bone. It's going to last a couple of weeks, and then we have holes. So right now on Mills Cross Road, if you take a ride on it, we don't have holes, but we have bumps. You know, I call it the pepperoni road, you know? And anytime I have like company to visit, their first question always is, what is with Hyde Park? You know, and it's a reflection on the town. I look at it this way, you know, I used to own a couple of buildings on Route 9. We kept them up perfect. The town wants all the businesses on Route 9 to keep their properties looking good. So when people are driving through, they say, oh, what a beautiful town. And it is a beautiful town. But you know, it's that old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. All right? So you drive through Hyde Park, beautiful town. You make a turn off Route 9 or 9G and go on some of the roads, it's like, what's with the town? You know, this is how I'm looking at it, just from an average person, all right? If a real estate person is taking somebody to go look for houses, all right, and let's say they go on Mills Cross Road or Reservoir or Cardinal Road, if I'm that buyer my first thought is gonna be, what's with this town? They're not putting any money into the town. And then it's a reflection of, okay, you know, what is that, are they putting money into schools and things like that? All right, so again, I'm not blaming who I'm speaking to, but there's gotta be some kind of a long-term solution. I'm talking about a solution that it's after we're gone, but something that, you know, like Mills Cross Road was done pretty nicely about 20 years ago. It was blacktop, done very nicely. Nothing was done with drainage, which I know is what tears up the roads, okay? But it's like, okay, now it's a total disaster again. So it's like, all right, we got our road blacktop, but it was wasted. You know,
And there's the problem. Unfortunately, it's going to take us extreme long time to play catch-up, because like Howie's doing now,
right.
we're doing a true and leveling on all the washboard. But we all made a decision that paving that road, and when it was done 20 years, that road should have had drainage on it before it was paved. So now, before we do any more pavement or throw any money away, he's gonna go up and take, in that, where that washboard is, we're getting a lot of infiltration coming out of the
Right,
side bank.
yep.
So when we do the drainage and then we pave that road next year, that road, like he says, we're on a 30-year time frame, which 30 years is pushing it. But prior to this administration, they were on a 65-year
Right.
timeframe.
And,
So
you know,
we're
right.
trying to, you know.
And I hear what you're saying, and I understand that 100%, even though I really have no idea what all that stuff means. I mean, I do, but, you know, it's not my thing. But there's got to be a reason why, if you're driving in this county, you know when you're in Hyde Park, and you know when you're in another town.
Yeah.
The roads just fall apart. I'm not blaming you. You know, this
No.
this goes way back.
I stand by what I did.
Yeah.
I can't stand by what anybody else.
And that's why I'm saying it's
I
not,
have a foreman on the job that wasn't done before. My
Right.
foreman's on the job, I'm on the job. When I'm on the job, I'm walking them roads. You can ask the people in Golden Meadows, South Cross Road, any road I've paved. I walk up and down them roads, I'm on it, my foreman's on it. That wasn't done previous.
right.
And again, now we're spending double the money.
But-
You know, 20 years ago, at 65-year turnaround, if yours is gonna get done in the next 2 years, you're fortunate.
Right.
Because other people still have been over 40 and not getting a road.
Exactly. But see, and again, that is my point.
Yep.
You
Point
know,
well taken.
somewhere along the line, way back, this whole thing had started where,
Yeah.
you know, wherever the monies come from, they have not been allocated at all enough for him to be able to do his job. And I feel that it's our obligation to do something so in the future, the town doesn't fall apart. Because that's how I look at it, you know? We owe it to the future. That's what my concern is, not when I'm even here.
No, I know, and we had many conversations, and I think to do the big washboard spot, what were we talking about, 80 ton, 40, 80 ton of blacktop to do a true and level on that?
We're gonna take the milling head up there, we're gonna scuff it down, make it flat, and then put a top on it just to get through. Because if I spend CHIPS money, I can't go back to it for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
And again, we don't have a budget line anymore. Back in the day when Ed Cox was here, we had a budget line for blacktop.
Yeah, yeah.
The only money I do get now is state, but again, I can't say anything against the town because they're giving me almost what I'm getting
Right.
from the state. It's catch up, we're getting there. Like I said, I'll have a quarter of the town done in 8 years. But that's what it's gonna take.
right. And I hear what, I hear what you're saying. That's why I'm saying, I'm not blaming what everybody now.
Yeah,
But it's like, what is the plan to
But if you
keep the
take-
town
if you
looking
take a
good?
road bond out, right, which was done for your road and these other roads, and you don't have the right person supervising it, you get garbage.
Yeah.
We got Creek Road, we got Dorsey Lane, we got Roosevelt Road. Our road bond, I think we consolidate them, we try to look them all up.
Every
We
basin
conso-
on West Dorsey, East Dorsey, Roosevelt Road has got a cut around the basin. And if they haven't, that means they haven't failed yet, which they're gonna fail within the
Right,
next 2
okay.
years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hopefully,
We're
this
on.
will, long-term will solve the problem, so we don't have this, I'll call it a disaster. Again,
Yeah.
it's not you,
Yeah. No.
you know?
No,
It's
we-
just, you know?
We get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And we.
I mean, we live in the best state in the country.
Yeah.
And our the roads are just bad.
Yeah.
That's all. Again, I'm not,
No, I
It's-
appreciate you
it's not
stopping
you
and
folks,
coming and
okay?
and voicing your concern.
yeah.
I appreciate it very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you all do a good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I know. Take care. Thank you.
Hey, Richard Maddox and Professor Zion Kloss of Marist College to discuss the Fallkill watershed flooding and drainage.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. I'm Richard Maddox, a Virginia Tech graduate environmental scientist and a member of the Conservation Advisory Council of Hyde Park. The CAC was founded in the 1970s to assist the Town Board, Planning Board, and Zoning Board of Appeals on environmental issues. Fallkill Creek flooding, particularly between Haviland Road and Lyons Road, has been on our radar. In the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to discuss flooding and drainage of the Fallkill watershed. Before introducing our speaker, please permit me to give some context. The Fallkill is a state and federal recognized impaired waterway. It is also recognized as an inland waterway, which frees up various forms of government funding, and indeed the town is actively pursuing such grants. The Fallkill Creek is the drain for the Fallkill Creek watershed. The watershed covers over 19 square miles of surface area. That's to say, the creek drains the equivalent of about 10,000 football fields. About 60% of that collection area is in the town of Hyde Park. The Fallkill Creek runs about 14 miles from the Hollow Road, Fiddler's Bridge Road intersection up near the Presbyterian Church to the Children's Museum next to the Poughkeepsie train station. Now, halfway down the creek's length is the Haviland Roosevelt community. That is to say, approximately half of all the water the creek discharges into the Hudson River first passes through the Haviland Roosevelt Lyons community. And as we all know, occasionally that water backs up there. There are a number of reasons for that water backup and multiple ways to manage the watershed to reduce the backup. Dr. Klaus is here tonight to discuss with the board what the board will want to take into consideration to manage the watershed so as to reduce that flooding. Dr. Klaus is a hydrologist, a tenured professor at Marist College. He helps lead the Fallkill Watershed Coalition, of which the town participates, and he helps foster communication and research along our local watershed that spans through a total of 4 municipalities in town. He also serves as a science advisor for the Scenic Hudson and for several other organizations in the local Hudson Valley region. He lives in Poughkeepsie and works closely with the students to help communities and organizations better understand how their watershed are functioning and changing in warmer, wetter, and more extreme climates. With pleasure, Dr. Klaus.
Well, thank you, Richard, and thanks all for having me here. Oh, we're good. Okay, great.
You can hold that, it's on if you want to
Oh,
speak
I can
into
hold
that.
that one too. Great. There we go. Perfect. So you can call me Zion. That's just fine by me. And Richard and I have been chatting a lot about what's been happening here in Hyde Park over the last few years. I've not from here originally, but I have been here for the last 7 years now, and this is my long-term spot in the Hudson Valley, being tenured now at Marist College. And I've helped communities through my research work in Idaho, Montana, California, Georgia, and now here in New York State, all with similar issues around water and flooding. Something that is really unique for the Northeast, and a big part of what drew me to this place, is that flooding is a bigger issue here than anywhere else in the country right now. You're probably familiar with like FEMA maps that show where you're closer to the stream, you might be more at risk of flooding. Some places farther away are safer. I think we all understand that. Those maps are created around different flood reoccurrence intervals where we think, hey, we might have a flood once in every 100 years that makes the water this high. And we're gonna then build far enough away from that particular spot so that we don't have that flooding event that happens once in every 100 years. Fortunately, in the Northeast, there's a lot of rapid changes in climate that are causing our region more than anywhere else in the country to see a strong rise in the rate of precip, so how fast rain falls, is going up really fast. And what used to be a 1 in 100 year event for this region more often happens between 1 in 10 and 1 in 15 years. So what we thought maybe we'd see once in our lifetime, we're now seeing every decade. And I think I've been helping Richard here, I've been helping many other communities and organizations in the Hudson Valley with similar issues. And at Marist College, it is a teaching-focused undergraduate institution, and the reason I chose to go there is because I do love teaching more than anything else. And so what I was asked to do tonight was to come here and just be a resource to help explain hydrology and how watersheds function, and to help kind of think about what's happening here in context of how the stream functions as a system, both upstream of Hyde Park, within Hyde Park, and then downstream. And I'm very familiar with it. My students have been working with me and communities up and down the watershed to help deal with a variety of issues outside of just flooding too. So what I want to introduce tonight is just kind of this concept of, we have the watershed, as Richard said, we have the equivalent of 100,000 football fields in here, and when a storm comes, it rains really hard, all that water hits, some goes into the ground, some goes over the top. If it rains really fast, it's hard for a lot of that water to make it down into the ground, so it goes over the top and into the stream really fast. And we've been seeing more and more flooding here as we have everywhere else in this region. And for our section of the watershed that we're really worried about, so we have the town here, and we have a section that's had the worst flooding historically in the past, and now we're thinking a lot about what we can do for the people that live along the stream there. We want to really help folks be able to exist there into the future as things get more and more intense, and also figure out how do we help the whole community deal with this bigger issue that's becoming bigger and bigger year after year for us with climate change. And so downstream, we have a dam and we have a reservoir. And talking to folks here and talking to many other people I work with in other communities, it's easy to think of a watershed as like a big bathtub where, hey, we have a dam and a reservoir behind it. And so if we have a big flooding event, well, yeah, maybe we should just make the drain in our bathtub larger so that we can then move water out of that bathtub faster. And that analogy works really well at a small scale. So directly at the reservoir, which is down here, and that dam, if we make the dam larger, be able to drain faster, it will help with flooding immediately around there. But what we have to consider when we look at a watershed, I apologize, this has seen a lot of traction, this particular graph, so it's a little beat up, but here's an elevation profile of the watershed. So up here, there's a higher elevation, so we're higher above the Hudson River, the 12 miles upstream from where it finally gets to the dam here at the bottom. And you can see it's very steep stream. It's going down in elevation as we move farther from the very upstream regions of the Falk Hill. And then we go down into this area that's relatively flatter, and that's where we're seeing a lot of these flood issues. So the water slows down, and it's less about the speed and more about the fact that the areas around the stream are also flat too, and so there's a place for that water to again go and sit and flood people's homes. Then we go farther downstream, and we have the dam. And we can see here by the change in elevation in these horizontal gray lines that the dam is still several meters lower in elevation than this area where we're flooding here. And then it steps up halfway through, steps up again, steps up again, steps up again. And so I think the better analogy than just one big bathtub that has a drain down here that we're trying to fix is a bunch of stacked bathtubs with a bathtub here, that is the reservoir and dam and a drain, and then one right here at this next drop in elevation. This is a pinch point that's going to slow water down, and by changing what's happening there, we can change how much water accumulates right here and potentially floods. The next jump in elevation, the same thing. So it's a series of stacked bathtubs. And so if we're going to do work to figure out where we should try to help manage flooding issues in our community, we do need to look piece by piece to see, okay, where's a pinch point here is being caused by a constraint because of a road crossing that forces the creek to go very tight? Is it because of some kind of drainage culvert system or some other system that we have built, or is it because of downed trees that are holding up? And we also have beaver coming into the watershed as well. These are all part of every watershed in this region. They're dealing with these same things all at the same time. And we're all thinking about it a lot in the last few years because of how fast the issue of flooding has become a big thing for communities. But it's important to know that each of those places kind of need their own solution engineered and figured out. And there are engineers and hydrology consultants that do this full time, and there's talk about having people come in and help the community with this, which is great. It's where a lot of my colleagues have gone off with their PhDs to be consultants to do that type of work. But the other thing to consider is that in these bathtubs, we can fix it piece by piece, and that will work to solve small sections piece by piece by piece. But we also, and this is how we manage big river systems across the country, when the federal government comes in and says, hey, we're dealing with flooding for the city of Philadelphia, for example. So that's across state lines. So the federal government comes in and they say, hey, we want you, Army Corps of Engineers, to figure out how to save this big city across multiple states of water coming down this massive river. And so what the Army Corps of Engineers does, they go in, and they did this mostly in the 1960s and 70s in a big way across the country, and they said, okay, where upstream do we have much less land, like high density land use? Where are there existing wetlands or basins that we could build dams and slow that water so we can catch it up here when it rains really hard and then let it out slowly so that it never floods the things that are down here. And most of our communities, our cities tend to be at the bottom of the watersheds, and then rural areas with farms and forests are upstream. That's all over the world, all over our country. And so they go in, they build dams, and then they can control those dams so that when they know a storm is coming, they can say, hey, we have a few days out from maybe a hurricane coming into this region. We're going to drain a bunch of these real reservoirs up here. That's going to give us more space. But the way that that works is it holds the water up high, and then it prevents the flooding down here. We have a reservoir that's at the bottom, and so dealing with this reservoir will help us immediately upstream of it, but then we go into the next bathtub and the next bathtub and the next bathtub. So if we want to help this whole area with a lot of people's homes that are being flooded quite often, we also need to think about this larger upstream area and where we have the potential to potentially hold water back through sizing of culverts, through having a lot of different options that communities use that consultants can help with. But by having some retention basins up high, we could potentially help everyone at once as opposed to helping piece by piece by piece. There are still plenty of things to do piece by piece by piece that would help, but it's only going to be a small fix immediately upstream of that particular pinch point, that kind of drain between each of the bathtubs. Going upstream, we have a lot more potential to hold back larger amounts of water. And this is how we do it at bigger scales, on bigger watersheds. We have a smaller one, smaller communities, but this is where we're at. And this is just some previous findings from previous consultants who did work the watershed and now serve as engineer for the town. But the most effective means of flood mitigation involves construction of water storage facilities that function similarly to stormwater management basins or natural wetlands by expanding the floodplain in the undeveloped areas and providing additional volume for floodwaters to fill during a flood. And so, back to our map. This is kind of the end of my piece, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you folks based on your questions. So we have a flood zone. Downstream, we have a reservoir, which doesn't actually do much to help us with the flood zone. Upstream, we have other areas where there are wetlands, there are places with a lot less infrastructure. So the right consulting reports, the right engineering analyses, the right creative ideas, and we could help hold back water after big storm events so it's not coming through here too fast and then it drains out slowly afterwards. And that's what we do at big scales across the country. So it's kind of the general knowledge I wanted to share, and as you folks think about what you best want to do for the community, I just wanted to help make it clear that this is one area we can manage. It will help a certain area. We can manage pinch points as we go up the stream, but we can also think about the whole area and how we prevent all that water from coming through and flooding communities. So I'm here to answer questions now for you folks. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm just going to come up and refer to the map.
Yeah.
Like that. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to get an idea, if you know, when you were talking about the catch basins down here,
Yeah.
how many acres of land would it need to create one of those catch basins?
Yeah, so the catch basins. Oh, yeah, sorry. So to do catch basins where we're going to hold back water, I'll actually pull us back to the other map because I should have been better at describing what these green zones were. But these are smaller sub-tributaries or smaller basins that feed into the main stem. And we have...
The further down the stream you go, the more of those are contributing.
Yes, and any of these upstream that we can create as a catchment basin to hold back water will help down in the main, because where the flooding is happening is along the main stem of the Fallkill Creek, and so this is getting water from everywhere up here. So any place we can go in and hold back water, we'd be able to then lessen the amount of water here.
You're talking about how much space you would need to do that.
Yeah, and that depends on how big the particular storm is. So we had Hurricane, what are some major ones? I was before my time here,
Irene.
but yeah, Irene, that dumped 13 inches of water in 24 hours in the Catskills. Major issues there. Vermont last summer wasn't even a hurricane, just a major summer storm event. We had some flooding in the north part of the county too, and up and all throughout Vermont. You know, they're looking at just 8 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. We've had some storms here, I think, well, I've been here that were up around 4 inches in a 24-hour period that had some major flooding issues. So even at the 4-inch storm, if we can hold back, and that's why I can't give you a hard answer of how much we need, because it's just, it would help us with those medium storms if we had smaller basins that were created. And larger basins would help us with larger and larger storms. And a lot of these places are already in wetlands, and so those ecosystems are already in a great place to temporarily be flooded and then drain back out again. That's what they're designed to do. They're a natural way that that water is stored. They don't have to be dredged out. What has to happen is, and this is what the engineers can work on, is thinking creatively about ways of where the sub-tributary or the little side stream where it goes under a culvert or underneath a road. Currently, the culverts are just sized at a certain size. You can make them bigger and they would drain faster, or you can make them smaller and it would drain slower, or you could put some kind of gating system in there so when you knew a storm was coming, you could drain down and then you could close the gate in time to then have it hold back most of the water and then it would drain slowly through that like half-open gate.
So for short term, to help people in short term, we would deal with culvert and trees or something down that might be blocking the flow of the stream now. For long term, we're talking about these catch basins and then further up some sort of a smaller dam system, because obviously the further north you go, the less water you need to hold back, right?
Yep.
And those would be done in stages?
Yeah, so I think, the big takeaway that I want to say is that there are pinch points that are related to road crossings and streams and culverts and trees that can help immediately upstream of that particular area. But as soon as you move up in elevation a little bit, that particular bathtub, it can't feel anything of the downstream bathtub at that point. It's because it's being pinched by the next drain up in that series of bathtubs. And so the same with our larger reservoir at the bottom. Draining that down before a storm will help immediately upstream of that, but then once we go to that next pinch point or that next drain to the next small bathtub, it's not going to feel what's happening down there. So we could drain that down, and we'd hope that would be great if we could just drain at the base and we have a bunch of space for water to go. There would be space for water to go, but then this pinch point immediately above it, that next small jump up in elevation, would then be the pinch point that floods everything behind it instead. So, yeah, thank you.
One of the advantages we have is this watershed has already been modeled to design the corrections that were made down on the reservoir. The county paid for a model so that each one of these tributaries is understood. Have they used that model and essentially gamed it, figured out what the best results are for each one of the tributaries, how to manage that tributary? To my knowledge, that has not been done yet, but Pete and I are talking about that. Pete now has a copy of that model, and we're going to be talking about what can be done to better understand what interventions give what results.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're inventing something here. We're not starting from ground zero. We've got that model, and we're a long ways ahead of the game. Now we have to just start through the process with this recent grant money that you folks were able to obtain. Part of that money is going to go to manipulating that model to better understand bang for the buck.
Yeah, and the model is essentially a computer simulation of each pinch point and each area for water to be stored above it in a series of pinch points and storage basins all the way up. So a bunch of tiny bathtubs all put together. And we're very fortunate to have that larger reservoir down there that forced that model to be made by previous consultancies. And future work can easily then start in a place where there's already a bunch done and then continue to modify and see, hey, if we gamed it out, if we changed how we held back water here, depending on land ownership and where we have access and people that would want to be open to that, where these existing wetlands are, we could then pretty easily have an understanding of how this particular size storm would then turn into flooding or not downstream for us in those areas we're really concerned about. So.
With the grant that we obtained, they should be putting together their proposal and outlook on what their engineering designs are. They're using a lot of the information that you provided to me. And when I get that, like I told you, I'll sit down with you and we'll review it and then have some input before we say, okay, go ahead. I don't want to let them go on their own. If there's no need for duplication. There's need, because they said, oh, we're only going to get so far with 200,000. And I'm scratching my head thinking, you're going to get a lot further than you think because we have a lot more information. So it'll be positive. And thank you, Zion.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
appreciate it.
Happy to.
I've jumped on that ever since we spoke the first time.
Yeah, it's been great to continue to help, so.
Yeah. This is just, I'm kind of a nerd about stuff like this.
That's great.
Like, little things. If we're able to expand the pinch points, would that help in any way? Or
Yeah,
no?
so the pinch point expansion, and this is what part of the, the scope of work was for the, the most previous potential work for essentially making a plan of what could be done, is looking at pinch point by pinch point, what could be changed so that that particular pinch point is no longer holding back water, but it's only going to help with flooding immediately upstream of that pinch point, and then there's another pinch point and another pinch point. So the model has all those kind of in there. The consulting work can help say, hey, this is where we should really prioritize some removal for a pinch point to help a few homes immediately upstream of that. But if we want to help everyone at once, especially as we get larger and larger storms into the future, we also need to be thinking about the whole watershed at once. And that's kind of how we think about watersheds at a big scale across the country. And now we're trying to scale it down to like what you can do in the community here. So, yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, thank you very much for your support on this, and the other council members as well. It's good to be able to have conversations, serious conversations, and you take this seriously. It's reassuring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you again.
So what the public, I just wanted to update the public. So 2.5 years ago, when this board came on, I mean, when you're talking pinch points and you're talking making water flow, listen, we came in and we tried to go in people's backyards and open up swales, and the highway department increased the culvert pipes and on. But we found out that through all this, we had a lot of uncooperative neighbors. We had people that refused to let us go in the backyard to make the water flow. And keep in mind, we always emphasize to all the taxpayers and residents out there, the town of Hyde Park doesn't really want to spend money in people's backyards. We're trying to be good neighbors because this situation has been happening and been going on for 50 years, and everybody's been talking about it, and nothing got accomplished. So over the last 2.5 years, with the supervisor hiring Millennium Strategies, our grant writer, we put in a request for $140,000 for this first phase of funding to get us to 30% of approved drawings. That basically, for the $140,000, there were 5 municipalities that they picked, and they had up to $1 million to spend. So with the supervisor talking to these people, we ended up getting $200,000 dedicated to the Haviland Roosevelt Road, the Falk Hill Shed area, which was phenomenal. It's a great, listen, this never happened before, so I'm very excited. The next thing is, by Richard Maddox and all you guys giving your data, and with the county doing the dam work, all the stuff that we already submitted, that they're going to use that information to compile or use that as a starting point instead of starting from zero to get to a minimum of 30% construction drawings. If the money gets them to 50% construction drawings, all well and good. At that point, we are in the process, there's a second grant that follows the first one. And if you get the first one, of course, it's a lot easier to get the second one. The second one will bring us to completion of them drawings so that we know exactly what scope of work and what will take place to eliminate this problem as a whole, which is going to be a tremendous task because, like I said, it seems like we're two steps forward, and every time we get a couple steps forward, we go 3 back.
Yeah.
So.
And you are very similar to many communities that are dealing with this in such a big way right now, and it's been a historic issue, and it's becoming a much bigger issue for everyone in the region to figure out how to deal with, and it's very complicated. So I'm happy to help as much as I can to help educate folks on how this all works. But yeah, the consultancies and paying for that detailed work is what needs to happen to figure out exact options and what's that exactly going to mean for floods under certain size storms.
In order for us to get any funding to perform the work, we need all of these drawings, everything budgeted out and all that completed. That's the first step. So we took the first step, second step, and now once they're done, because we'll get another grant to do it, to finish them, then we go after them funding for to actually perform the work.
Yeah, and you're very fortunate, having worked across the U.S., you're very fortunate to be in the state that we're in and how much state money is coming in for communities to help with these issues, which isn't common across the country.
Yeah, but we've been hearing that a lot, but it seems like the money hasn't come out.
Well, I can say...
We have a full-time grant writer since our
Yeah.
administration took over, and I'll tell you, this was the first hit that we finally said, oh, my God, about time. But everybody said, oh, there's plenty of funds, there's plenty of money out there. Well, listen, we've been flipping over every rock to
Yeah.
get to where we're at right now.
Yeah, and yes, and the whole state at once is having this huge issue come upon it, so that's why we need so much funds here, too. It's not like the rest of the country is seeing this rapid rate and flooding like we are, so.
Well, we thank you very much, and Richard Maddox has been doing a lot of the rainfall accumulations and posting a lot of data for the last year and a half. And between that and with Pete Sotero, all that information, the more we give this to this grant writer or these grant people, the more data we give them, we're gonna get farther, which is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Liz, did you have something?
Yeah, besides the county study that they did on the way the water's flowing, Richard, you may know, the engineering report, is it gonna include more studies of the way the water's flowing and where it needs to be put in the bathtubs, or simulate the flow of the water, the speed of the water versus how much water's raining down?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be part of the engineering, or?
Yeah, they're going to take all the documentation we gave them, levels, heights during storms, after storms, where they're accumulating most, and where it's flat, which is, that's the biggest area, that's a problem. We know area in it and then above it.
Yes, ma'am. That will be taken into consideration.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Becky, come up to the microphone.
Okay, does anybody else have any,
Please, hold on 1 second now.
oh, okay.
Hi, Becky Ochin, 208 Roosevelt Road. First off, and my husband Dwayne, we've lived at this location for 25-plus years. I've been before the board to talk about this issue 25 years ago, and I was practically in tears when I was watching the meeting where the grant was announced. I've been working with Richard and on the periphery, and Howie knows of our issues, and certainly John, and I just applaud the efforts of the town and where you've been able to come to, even with this first grant. It's really impressive, and I can't thank you enough. One question I had with your discussion about pinch points is we walk the Roosevelt Road area practically every day, and one pinch point is the Park Service property. Mm-hmm. And how does that work? The Valkill site, the pond there, does not appear to have received any sort of maintenance over these 20-plus years that I've been in the neighborhood. And it feels like that's a huge pinch point for the Roosevelt area, road area.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, two kind of thoughts and just education on that. So the pinch point at Valkill, there's the bridge you walk over from the parking lot to the historic site, and there's actually a dam there that you can see the water kind of cascade over it. It's a small dam, so that really holds back water at that particular location. And then that is going to create a pinch point for a certain amount of distance upstream, but as soon as it starts going through more pinch points like other road crossings or moves up in elevation, then it's going to no longer matter for that particular spot. So if you're thinking about flooding upstream locations upstream of Valkill, then that's where it will have and that pinch point will have an immediate effect near it upstream, but then that effect will go away pretty fast. And that's where the detailed modeling work can really show how far that distance is, based on the elevation change and the size of the pinch points. And,
I guess
yeah.
maybe my question is more, is the Park Service part of this solution,
Yeah.
or are they just going to be an obstacle for us? I'm concerned about the retention of that pond before that dam that you're talking about has diminished so much that there's no way where for the water to go, so it immediately starts backing up earlier because the pond isn't anywhere near as big as it used to be.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was what my other point, just from a land management perspective.
Right.
Working across different ownership regimes. A lot of communities have this kind of larger federal or state ownership of lands that have their own mandates for how they're supposed to be managed, and then the individual towns with the people that live there. And ideally, we would all be in full communication. And I think, I'll let these folks speak to the politics of all that, but the reality of it is there's also a lot of federal regulations that the Park Service is under for how they have to or can and can't manage the land for preservation purposes and historic aspects and things like that. So they're going to be stuck within a certain amount of bounds, and they're going to have pressure to try to push those bounds one way or the other too.
I
So.
challenge them to say that when Eleanor was living there, that pond was much larger and much better maintained.
Yeah, and generally, the National Park Service mostly manages lands that aren't like that are just natural
Yeah.
spaces where they just kind of let them be and they preserve them to do whatever they do on their own. And this is a different space. So that the Park Service itself has their regulations, and
Yeah.
and so there might be the best intentions from the manager there, but they're really constrained by above them what they can do with the Park Service. So
Sure.
that's just kind of like a higher level understanding, but.
Thank you.
So our conversations, Becky, with the grant writer, when we met for hours with them to kind of give them the lay of the land, we had conversations of, listen, not only Valkill, but all along Valkill, all behind my house, Staccato, Sarico, all the way, that the federal government owns all that land there, that all the trees and everything
Yes.
is just falling down, and now we're getting on Haven Road where the trailer park is, all the trees are saturated and they're collapsing. Listen, from my perspective, I'm hoping that when they start doing this analysis, we can figure out where these pockets can go and try to work around and collect the water and manage it better before it gets to the federal government, because you know just as
Yeah.
well I do, they haven't been good neighbors, and I don't care what anybody says, they haven't done anything for us, they haven't maintained their property, we reached out to them numerous times, and it gets worse before it gets better, and it's sad to say, but half our problem is why we're in this predicament is because of the federal government property. I hate to say it.
It's all clogged up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the result of the model is we'll have a model that will be in front of everybody.
Yep.
And here's a reality, here's a truth. This has to be taken into consideration. And it's no
Yes.
longer just opinions.
And I think the last thing I'd add with the modeling aspect is the model itself is very complicated to use or even to understand. But what a good consultancy and good consulting work can do is they can help understand what options you're considering, and that's kind of what I'm helping provide, like big picture brainstorming. And then they can provide you detailed scenarios. Okay, this would be what it would be if we built retention basins here. This is what would look like if we really focused our money on these pinch points. And they can then show you, by taking those different options and putting them into the model, what the general takeaway would be. So it's kind of on you as the folks who are paying for the consultancy to say, this is what we want as outcomes from that experience, as opposed to saying, hey, there's a model, show it to us. Well, what they decide to show is really dependent on what you ask them to show, because you can't just kind of see it as is, because it's a very complex thing.
Well, I'm
in
not being
itself.
sarcastic, but we're relying on Richard and you.
Yeah.
Because we want to get as much as we can for
Yeah.
our 200,000, as far as we can,
Yeah.
because we're only doing this once, and we got to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go to resolutions, does anyone have any public comments on resolutions, town business, time limit of 3 minutes? Anyone? No?
Can we ask questions on other things?
Yes, that's, anything that's on the resolutions. Oh, do you have something else? You can come up and ask a question.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you.
Good evening. Kathy Reganetti, 24 Van Dam Road, Hyde Park, New York. I came to the previous April meeting, and at that time you stated that you were going to be doing something at the base of Van Dam Road to alleviate some of the flooding that was there. It's my understanding you've had 2 walkarounds. On April 11th, I sent a letter, an email to you. I copied Cecilia, I copied Courtney, I copied, who else did I copy? Hang on. Andy Herzig, and Jen at Winnicke, because she would be the contact person there. I received no response from anyone. Liz, you addressed me last time and said that you were going to contact me. I've been to Town Hall several times since the April 11th letter. I know it's a part-time job, but...
No, I received your email, and that email came the day after we addressed all your concerns the night of the board meeting, and what we said was that we were trying to, this is not town land, we were trying to mediate with the 3 owners to see what could be done.
Who do you consider the 3 owners? Because maybe that's part of the problem.
I believe it's the Eveready Diner, the Hyde Park Florist, and Winnicke.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's, Winnicke is not one of the owners, but they're willing to participate in the repair.
in the resolution.
Well, you told me on the evening of the last town board meeting that Andy Herzig had okayed paying 1/3 of what should really be paid totally by Hyde Park Eveready Diner. And when I spoke to him the next day, he was totally unaware, never said that. And I mentioned, John, that you had said you had spoken to him, and
Right, and
nothing.
that's what we've been trying to do, is mediate between
You
these
want to take it, or you want me?
these 3 people that are involved, because it has nothing to do with the town, and then you came back with, the very next day, a lot more questions that we haven't even been in touch with these people. You said, why didn't I know this until tonight? And it's because they had just had meetings with them. And we're not going to tell everybody what the meetings are about, so that you can go ask them what's going on, and then they say, I have no idea that that's happening. So,
But you said at the last, John said at the last meeting that Hyde Park Florist had agreed to pay 1/3 of a bill they should have no necessity to pay at all. And if they choose to do that, then God bless them. I'd love to have the kind of limited liability that Eveready Diner has. If I could make my home into that and have all my neighbors pay for bills that came down the pike, I'd love that. Tell me
Well,
how to do that. I'll do it.
like you
in a
said,
heartbeat.
there's been walkthroughs with everybody involved, and John... you
No,
wanna
not with
address it?
everybody involved at all. And in fact, somebody mentioned to my neighbor who was sitting out on her deck that this was nothing to do with her. My neighbor whose home has been flooded since last
Well, the
October.
people that can resolve it are the people that they met with. So, John, if you want to just, I was going to give an update at the end of the meeting. Do you want to just give an update of where they are now? It's going forward for a solution.
Yeah, we're moving forward. It's on the agenda. I sent an email to Pete Sotero last week the town engineer, to come up with a construction date, circulate it to everybody so that we can get the scope of work situated like we discussed, to flush the pipe, excavate it, and on and on. And I believe he's waiting for my office to come back with a date. I'm not 100% sure, but I would have to do a follow-up, but we'll get it on the calendar for a scope of work and get the ball rolling.
Are you aware that there was a study done in the past, and Andy Herzig said that they found the break, and the break was underneath Pete's Famous restaurant, the former Pete's Famous?
Listen, like I told you last meeting, I'm not here to start hearsay, this say, that say. We agreed that this was our means and methods to proceed to clarify exactly what's going on and find the problem. There's been rumors, there's been talk, just like you go talk to your neighbors, this one said that, Andy
Well,
said
if you
that.
state something, I'm going to follow up and
Well,
check on it.
well,
Be
you-
assured of that.
You could follow up all you want,
Thank
but
you.
all you're doing is wasting my effort to go back, because if I told you Andy already gave us approval, which I have emails, he did, Winnicky and the diner agreed to pay a third each. If he's telling you something different, I'm not here in front of television to argue with you. If he said that to me,
Why don't
he
you
said
tell
that.
me the date then, and that might alleviate
Listen,
some of the
it's
problem.
irrelevant. I don't need to go through
Oh, I
this
think
whole
it's
proce-
very relevant.
I don't need to go through this whole procedure with you and describe what's going on. We have a means and methods, we agreed on what we're gonna do, and that's the course of action we're taking. You can come here and throw rocks and throw stones all you want, it ain't gonna help.
John, I am
make
not
the
throwing
problem go
rocks or
away.
stones. I am asking for clarification, especially when I send an email to each member of the board who was involved, and I get nothing back. I would like to know what's going on my street,
I told
because
you
you have...
last month when you were here, and nothing has changed. I told you what the scope of work is, what our intentions were. When we get everybody's blessing, we would schedule it and proceed. And
What happened to the water in the interim?
What water?
The water that had flooded the area since last fall?
Clarify what you're asking one more time.
There's a tiny spot of water. There is not what I referred to as Lake Rapper, which was previously there, and you're telling me that you have not done the flushing?
No, we haven't done nothing yet.
Okay, so how did all of a sudden the water dissipate in such a short period of
Well, we really haven't
time?
had any extensive rainfalls in the last 3 weeks compared to what we had previously. It's been somewhat dry. And listen, we could stay here argument all the time. There's a course of action that we all agreed on and that we're going to take, and that's the way we're going to proceed.
And then I asked in that email, who would be taking the lead on that? Would it be the flushing company? Would it be
Well,
the excavators?
It's going to be the town engineers taking the lead on that. We just made that determination when we got Winnicky. Winnicky was the last person that we were waiting for a response in writing before we decided to
David
move
gave
ahead.
it.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got it. So now.
You got an okay for Winnicky?
Yes, David.
As a good neighbor to pay for one-third of what the Eveready Diner should be funding. 'cause
Well, that's
it's-
what you keep saying, and I
You
disagree
think
with
that.
you,
We
so
may-
that's what I'm
It
saying.
may not
You-
be that.
Yeah, we're spinning our wheels here.
Will you refund it if it is that?
Refund what?
The monies that you take from two other property owners who have been the victim of this flooded pipe. Or this broken
You're
pipe.
here to complicate the matters, not solve it.
Nah.
So you're wasting my time.
We're
That's the way I
far
look
enough
at it.
ahead that
So
we
while
think
you're
that-
having a discussion, I got something more important to do. I'm gonna go to the men's room. Because it's a waste of time as far as I'm concerned.
Well, John, isn't that interesting, that
Yes,
that's
it
how
is.
you view that
Well,
when...
that's how I view it with you, because you're not here to solve the problem and work with us. You're here to complicate it, talk to all the neighbors. We addressed what we're doing.
So I'm not supposed to research what you say is fact at a meeting?
You can research all you want.
I
don't
did.
care. I don't care. What we're telling you is facts and the truth. We
Would
have
you-
nothing to hide.
Would you please explain to me what John claims is fact and truth?
That we
What are you
came up-
doing?
Came up with a method to blast out the pipes, all the culverts, and then we'll find out exactly what's causing it. We start from the side of the building. We're gonna it's like a giant, like a fire truck hose. It blasts through,
Okay,
and we'll see how that goes. Then if it doesn't clear from where we're starting it, with in front of the antique
on the
shop.
south side
On the
of...
south side, right where that pipe goes in. There was a transition done there. Could be a nailed there. So we blow right to that drain, then we go from there to the next drain. And we already know that off of Winnicky, the culvert there is clogged solid. We already know that. And it's where you can't, it's clogged so bad just from debris coming down. And it was never, it wasn't clean. We couldn't even find it. It was so much stuff. So we don't know what happened, could be multiple things. If it's under the Pete's Famous, we'll see it, we'll know. We might be able to blow it clean, it may be pinched, or, at the transition when they put the other pipe in. Could be that easy, hopefully, but we're gonna go through the whole drainage system.
And
the
nobody-
town's doing this, we don't have to, we're doing it,
Mediating.
as a courtesy. And when the woman on her porch said, "What about my house?" We can't do anything about her house. They moved it, they shouldn't have moved it where it was supposed to be. It was moved. Don't say it wasn't, because I know it was. Because I'm the one that helped her get her CO. They moved the house towards the water. It wasn't supposed to be, because they didn't want to deal with the rock. Nobody wants to deal with the rock, but if you move your house too close to the water, it's a risk.
Okay, you're stating that as fact, and that's going in these minutes?
Yeah,
Yes?
you can ask her, she knows.
Okay.
The builder did it to her. I mean, I don't think he did her any favors, I'm not going to disagree with that, but she should sue the builder.
The first or the second?
I would say the first, but she's going to have to go through the second.
They're related.
They're related, that's what I said, I don't care which one. And then once the water's down, like it is now, if she has the ability, get that door out of there, seal it up, waterproof the daylights out of it. If then she'll be able to sell, no matter what happens there.
Yeah, I would hope she'd have the money to do that. I think that's part of the issue.
I didn't build her house, I didn't put it there, I didn't sell her the property, the town didn't, but we stepped in to help her. That's all we can do.
Okay. I just find it interesting that the parties involved are being such good neighbors, when in fact, you as well as I know who really needs to pay for this.
That's an opinion.
Yes, it is.
But if it's under there, there's something that has to be done on his end. It could be sleeved, there's other things to do, but we need to find it, where the problem really is.
So nobody checked past records, saying that this
They
went
scoped
back
it, yeah.
historically and was scoped out
They
in the
scoped
past?
it didn't say it was broken, it could have had, there's water going through it, that means some of that stuff from upstream can go in and just clog it. You don't know. That's what, John, the deputy, and myself and the engineer, town engineer, we met there with Winnicky, which is David Ping. We met with, the people that own the florist and the people that own that property.
The Pete's Famous property,
Correct.
AKA either the Sarukas or Vanna, whatever
That's-
Costa's last
yeah,
name
and
is.
he had no problem with it.
Were they both there?
No, just the son, the oldest.
And his name?
I forget, what's his first name? I forget his first name.
What's that?
The guy we met with there.
It's irrelevant, I said that the last meeting. We're talking about stuff that we keep talking about every month.
Yeah.
It was 1 month, and I spoke to and sent letters to Al last fall. I waited until April to come to this board, and you're pissed at me for what reason, John? I'd really like to know.
Listen, what I'm saying is, we're trying to solve the problem. That's what I'm trying to get at. Why you're trying to argue and complicate things is beyond me. I don't get it.
I don't understand
And
why
we're
you
not
think
here to put the
inform me of
blame on one
something is
person.
complicating an issue.
We're not
Excuse
here to
me.
put the blame on one person or another. We're just trying to, with the three people involved, get a solution, and that's where we're at, and we're just trying to get an answer to have it resolved.
Ma'am, I'm the town attorney, and I do just want to say, and I think this has been stated before, but for the benefit of the public and as a reminder, the town is stepping in to broker a situation to get to a solution that really it has no liability for.
No legal liability. They most assuredly have a moral liability.
Well, I don't know if moral is the right word, but I will say, I think the
is.
town board agrees with you, and that's why they've stepped into this process to try to broker this situation. I think the fact that certain people want to be good neighbors is probably indicative of the notion that they ought to do the same. These are not stupid people. And also, I think it is to be applauded that there are people willing to step up to do this. The town is really going beyond its legal obligation to try to help residents of the town with the problem by brokering among many owners. I think that that's a good thing. I hope that that's how it resolves itself. And as the supervisor has said, if when they do the investigation, different facts reveal a different or better course, I'm sure that that course will be pursued. But I don't think the town is not being in any way obstructionist or obfuscating the issue at all, and I think we're all hopeful that the problem will get resolved as a result.
I hope so, too. It would be interesting to know if it's going out to bid. Does that increase the timeline? You know, what timeline are you looking at this point?
It's not a town project. There's no bidding needed to be done. It's not a town project.
That's why those
other owners
asked to
are
participate.
privately investing in trying to find a solution because they see that there's a big problem, and we've asked them to look into it because the neighbors are very upset and they're flooded. It's a horrible situation.
And
Yes.
Mr. Payne he said, I'm willing to do it. Not that he has to. He says, we have to solve this. And
Mr. Payne being Winnicky?
He's Winnicky, yeah. I think he's the chairman of it. And he was gracious enough to say, I'll chip in. Or the two would, we would have had a little bit of a conversation there, but when he did that, it made it simple.
Good.
So,
Well, we'll await. How long are we awaiting?
I don't think it's going to be that long, but I can't give you an exact date right today.
Okay, but do you think before next fall?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be done when it's dry, too, is better.
That would be advantageous, I would
It's
say.
close.
Well, I look forward to seeing that done, but I left last time saying I look forward, and instead
But
I
then-
incurred someone's wrath, and I don't understand why. Because I have been nothing but amiable to you. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we can start now, Mark, with the resolutions.
Resolution 513-1 of 2024, a resolution authorizing the town of Hyde Park to acknowledge the resignation of sole assessor Cheryl Kazluga.
May I have a second, please?
Second,
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-2 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to appoint Francine DeGrande to the Town of Hyde Park Board of Assessment Review.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-3 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to amend Resolution 12-59 of 2024 to remove Councilman Liz Mosqueda as Audit Committee Liaison and appoint Councilman Mark Prine as the Audit Committee Liaison for the town and community.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-4 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Deputy Assessor Maureen Gilmartin to attend the New York State Assessors Association 5-day online Zoom training course titled Application of the Three Approaches to Value, July 15th through the 19th of 2024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-5 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Deputy Assessor Maureen Gilmartin to attend the online Zoom training Ethics and the Assessor, June 12th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-6 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize Kyle Barnett Esquire of the law firm Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP to negotiate a settlement for tax certiorari proceedings filed against the Town of Hyde Park by Rite Aid Corporation, number 07849-01.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-7 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize Kyle W. Burnett Esquire as a law firm Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP to negotiate a settlement for tax search proceedings filed against the Town of Hyde Park by Stephen Bard and Francis Teeker.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-8 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve an increase in tapping fees with respect to Realty Subdivision, known as St. Andrews at Historic Hyde Park Development in the Bellafield Plan Development.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-9 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Supervisor to execute the waiver of potential conflict of interest between the Town of Hyde Park and the Hyde Park Central School District.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-10 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to close the Hyde Park Town Court office on Wednesday, May 15th, and the Town of Hyde Park Town Hall offices on Wednesday, June 12th, for the 2024 public records inventory.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-11 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve the 2024 schedule for the Town of Hyde Park Town Board meetings for July to December of 2024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-12 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Nuck Prunk Tunk, Officer Mark Paciantio, and Officer Joshua Kimlich to attend a 3-day street gang investigators training, May 13th through the 15th, 2024, at the crossings of Colony and Loudonville, New York.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Pusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-13 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Officer Brian Sweeney to attend a two-phase basic and advanced undercover techniques for the narcotics officer training June 10th through the 14th and June 13th through the 21st, 2024, at the Northeast Counter-Drug Training Center in Annville, Pennsylvania.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-14 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Officer Stephen Riley and Officer Jacqueline Tucker to attend a four-phase first responder resiliency awareness training May 17th and 21st, June 6th and 18th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-15 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Supervisor to execute a 3-year renewal radio lease agreement with New York Communications, Inc., NICOM, for the Town of Hyde Park Police Department radios.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-16 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve Nuck Prunk Tunk, the attendance of Fire Inspector Peter Longy to attend the Hudson Valley Code Enforcement Officers Educational Conference, April 16th through the 18th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 513-17 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve the purchase of a new utility trailer for the Town of Hyde Park Recreation Department.
May I have a second, please?
You can second it and then the vote, yeah.
Second.
Okay. Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
So I'm going to say no. I'd like to see more, I would like to see the tires replaced on the trailer. I would like to see new planks on the trailer before we have to purchase something new for the amount that we're looking for. So I'm going to say no for this.
Okay.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
No.
Councilman Lombardi.
No.
Councilman Prusakowski.
No.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
No. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-18 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to retain CPL Architecture, Engineering, and Planning for drainage review for the hospice house.
May I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
I'd like just to add on this, thanks to the board members for giving me the support. Now, this resolution is for hospice. Of course, I believe that there's some drainage difficulties and deficiencies there, and the adjoining neighbors are having problems, and we had the town engineer out, and since this is a town issue, this is a prime example where we're going back and re-correcting it and re-looking at this again, so I thank all the board members for being on board with this one. Resolution 513-19 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of a road opening bond to Castle Construction Services, Inc., road locations Route 9 and Old Route 9 in Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prusakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-20 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of road opening bond to North Cross LLC, road location Mountain View Road in Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-21 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of a road opening bond to Michael Martin of Martin Geo Environmental LLC. The road location is 45 Peach Road to Bosey School, Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-22 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of a road opening bond to Golden and Golden Building Company, Inc., road location 37 Long Meadow Drive, Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-23-24 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of a road opening bond to South Cross Road Water Company, Inc., road location 12 Elizabeth Court in Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-24 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of road opening bond to N&N Hyde Park LLC, road location Pine Woods Road, Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-25 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to authorize the release of a driveway bond to North Cross Enterprise Incorporated, property location 35 Hewler Drive, lot number 3, Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 513-26 of 2024, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to confirm lead agency status to set public hearing for June 10th, 2024, and make necessary referrals of revised proposed cannabis local law.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, resolutions. Any new and old business? Anyone?
I've got some.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right, so, hold on, let me pull this up so I don't mess it up here. On in Plattsburgh, New York, there will be a memorial A memorial ceremony will take place in the hamlet of Plattsburgh on May 27th at 8 o'clock in the morning. The event is sponsored by volunteers from the community. It will be held at the Veterans Honorable Monument near the flagpole in the Dinsmore Park on Old Post Road. The monument to the veterans of World Wars I and II who served from Plattsburgh was erected in the 1940s. In case of rain, the ceremony will be held inside Dinsmore Firehouse. The public is invited to help us remember those who have died in service to our country.
What's that date again?
May 27th at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I just,
We gotta go from there all the way down to here by now.
We have gotten bids for the Dinsmore and Hackett Hill fences, and the board will be reviewing those bids for those fences in the coming weeks. And as the new audit committee liaison, I would like to start fielding resumes. So if you are interested in joining the audit committee, please send your resumes to me at mprine@hydeparknewyork.org. Is that right?
US.
.us, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else?
It's already been discussed.
Ward 3, Beck Park is under construction. The contractor's there, they're leveling the basketball court out and getting ready to pave that sometime in the near future. So that's coming along. The highway department, thanks to Howie and his gang, are helping the Beck Park create a better little parking area. When are you gonna do it?
Probably this Thursday or Friday.
This Thursday or Friday, so that's great. So that Beck Park is coming along great. And the most important thing at Beck Park is, like I say, is the county gave us the full amount of the $167,000 that, through their grant. So it's costing basically the town nothing to get that park redone. So we thank you, Sue Sereno and the gang. I also want to say our good friend Don Veith has been sick, and he's been taken back to the hospital again today. He has some complications, so all the people that know Don and what he does for the community, if we can all be saying a prayer for him, that would be greatly appreciated, and we hope he can have a speedy recovery. As far as the resilience grant over there on Haviland Road and Roosevelt Road, we're working with our friend Richard Maddox and the whole gang that gave us a presentation. So we are moving forward, compiling all the data, and that's moving in a positive direction. That's all I got.
I got nothing new in Ward 4.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Oh, gavel.